and also the pursuit of trying to be perfect with the knowledge of knowing you'll never be perfect was so crazy. I spent 11 years of my life trying to get the perfect score, knowing it's never going to happen. Nobody ever gets a 10.0. I think it's happened like maybe a couple times in history, or I don't know. But just knowing that and working towards something you'll never get is just so crazy. It's weird to have that, pounded into my head as a 6-year-old. It's weird.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Today's guest is the best. She's funny, kind, with great all-round banter. I had a blast having this chat with her. There's a lot of nuggets in this one. I don't even know where to start, but one that springs to mind is the decision to improvise videos and how this advice and courage to do so has changed Paige's life. It highlights that there is so much to experience in this world of ours, and you never know how good an experience can be unless you try. It is simply amazing to hear. Anyway, you'll have to listen to the rest, so let's get into it. Rising comedian creator Paige Gallagher is best known for her unique yet universally relatable character parodies, which she self-writes, produces, and stars in. Paige initially rose to digital fame via videos on TikTok and has since racked up over more than 1 million followers. Paige has been cited by Los Angeles Magazine as a comedian making sizzling content right now. Her comedy sketches draw on her own personal life experiences, and they are hilarious. Paige continues to take the digital world by storm with her debut self-produced talk show, Pillow Talk with Paige, featuring Paige as the show's head writer, producer, and host. The digital series combines two things: her loves of oversharing and lying in bed. The talk show features fellow creators and creates a uniquely cozy atmosphere for guests to embrace the relaxed and intimate conversations that usually occur while lying in bed. The series aired its premiere episode on October the 11th, with 9 total episodes slated to release weekly on Wednesdays across Paige's YouTube channel. Paige has also started an independent sketch comedy group called Queerish that has been highlighted by local media and still performs around LA today. In addition to her digital content creation, Paige's acting credits include titles such as the Art Film Spirit Award-winning comedy film Garthwaite, BET Plus romance film Never Again, comedy television series Adulting, and the TV movie The Good Guys. She also has extensively studied improv and sketch comedy at Second City, Groundlings, and the Upright Citizens Brigade, and can often be found performing her latest stand-up sets at the Hollywood Comedy and Ha Ha Comedy Club in LA. She's currently hard at working on writing and developing her own pilot project for television, in addition to an hour-long stand-up comedy special. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about improv and comedy, career-ending injuries, finding your voice, mentors, collaborating with friends, life-changing conversations with therapists, people-pleasing, content creation, the mental side of being on the internet, and pillow talk. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. I read in the file that you're developing a sitcom, and I'd love to know a little bit about it.
Yeah, I am writing a sitcom with 2 of my best friends. We went to college together. Yeah, it's really fun. We went to college together. We are pretty much inseparable. We're also in a sketch comedy group, and so we perform live all around Los Angeles as well. It's called Queerish. And yeah, basically the sitcom is just it's takes inspiration a lot from Broad City and Workaholics. It's very
Yeah.
much that
Nice.
ridiculous, like absurd vibe, which is really fun. And it's basically just about our friendship and living in Los Angeles and all of the things that come with that.
That is so cool. And I'm jealous. I've been looking for like a writing partner. I've had people along the way, but no one that I can like call like a duo or a trio. And you're working with two of your best friends. I'd
Mm-hmm.
love to know how that works. Could you,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's it's yeah, I'm really lucky because the only way I've had a lot of other writing partners and stuff, and a lot of times, things just fizzle out, work or life just gets in the
yeah,
way.
I know.
But because they're my two best friends and I see them every day, it's really easy for us to like hold each other accountable and to really hound each other like, when are we gonna do this scene? When are we gonna do this? And yeah, it's really fun. We usually just sit around a table and just kind of shoot the shit, and we take a lot of inspiration from our sort of lives and experiences. So that's really fun. When we're out, if something happens at a party, we're like, oh, that's got to be in it. And so we go back and um, add, just like a more ridiculous version of what happened. So it's fun. Yeah.
Okay. I know I said I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. I'm the guy that carries my phone and I think I converted it. It's at least 40 pages on Word. If something funny happens, I'm like, shh. And I don't actually do this. And I'll just write it down like, oh, my character can do, because I've written quite a lot of screenplays. I'm like, oh, this would work for this one. What would work for this one. But it's not as fun. And as I said, I have had writing partners and things fizzle out. Sometimes people go different directions, the whole works.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can share in, which I call my madness, with someone else, it has always
Mm-hmm.
been so much fun. And then it allows you to like appreciate like the party even more, because if it's not going well, for example, you can just laugh about it and you can be like, how
Right.
funny was that, and we can do this. So yeah, yes, it's very cool of you. How's it progressing? Are you guys close? What's the process?
Um, I think we are pretty close to finishing a final draft. What does that even mean?
Yeah,
Of
change it
the
time.
pilot.
Yeah,
Yeah, of our pilot. We're pretty close to getting it really, really good. We think.
nice.
And we have sort of an idea of where like the first season hopefully would go. But yeah, so we're getting pretty close in the writing process, and then comes the whole other beast of pitching and all of
I
that
know.
stuff. Hmm.
That's if you know anyone, send them my way. That's the area that I'm looking.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll send it out to the universe and we'll get someone to work for
Incredible.
both of us. You
Yeah.
mentioned something that's really interesting, the accountability. It's something like I've,
Mm.
I've been a previous people pleaser and I've always found it very hard to keep writing partners or other people in creative pursuits accountable. Is that something that's come naturally, or your team's just so good and it's a nice oiled machine?
Yeah, it definitely does not come naturally. I'm also a recovering people pleaser, so it is
Oh, very
tough to be
clever.
like to sort of and not annoy people. Of course, I'm like judging myself. I'm like, you're being annoying, but like reminding people or reaching out. Um, but yeah, we it with our friend dynamic, we're just so it's not even like friends anymore. They're more like just like my brothers and or more sisters. They're very sassy, and they have taught me a lot about how to speak what I want and ask for what I want. So they've been really helpful in that way too.
Can you tell me more about, because this is like a life lesson where I speak to people like on their deathbeds and like, I'm finally not a people pleaser. Then they like pass away. It's a journey for everyone. So your
Yeah,
friendship group has helped you with that?
yeah, they definitely have. And just being like, if they ask me to do something, or oh, do you want to go to this party or go to this dinner or whatever, and if I say yes, but they know that I'm lying, they'll call me out. They'll be like, no, you don't. Like, of course. And I'm like, no, you're right. I don't want to go. I just want to stay at home in bed. I'm like, okay, then just say that. So we've, hung out together for so long that they've been able to read me really well in that way. Yeah.
That's really cool. And we were speaking off air for a little bit about, you've been in LA for 10 years, but also that you've kind of found your like team or tribe or whatever the word is for you. And that would just make it so much easier, not only in life, but also creatively wise, because you
Yeah.
can work with, you just like kind of understand each other. And I think it's like one of the most important things that we have. I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
because you do so many different like comedy related stuff, whether it's acting or sketches or improv and all of that stuff. I would imagine that having strong teams really allows you to kind of excel as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I got really lucky because I came to LA to go to college, and the college I went to was a small private performing arts school. So everybody was a creative, which was amazing. And it was really, really easy to find like-minded people in such a niche community like that.
Nice.
But yeah, definitely having, especially in with content creation and stuff, if I didn't have my content creation tribe, I have like a little tribe where they're also content creators. And if I didn't have them, I think I would probably lose my mind. Like, it's so important in having longevity in this industry.
Agreed. And a lot of people don't talk about longevity. It's all about like the quick success, but not being able to
Mm-hmm.
maintain it. So I'd imagine
Mm-hmm.
that just by speaking through with like the people that you're with, it would massively help, because we do, unfortunately, in a sense, just want to focus on, oh, I'll just get really like a massive video, then nothing can
Yeah.
like come from it. And it's
Right,
maybe,
right. Like
yeah,
a quick fix. Yeah. It's like a high. I mean, at least for me, I don't know. I get such a high of off of those like little quick fixes that like sometimes will happen throughout,
yeah, naturally.
your career. But yeah, like, yeah, there's really no longevity in it unless you, unless you choose to keep going.
That is a very great point. So do you have like a WhatsApp group where you guys can discuss like also like the mental side of like, how do I cope with this, or oh, okay, please tell me all the
Oh,
secrets.
absolutely. Yeah. I have my two girlfriends who are also content creators, Caroline and Vienna, and we make videos together all the time, which is also extremely helpful because before I was just making videos by myself in my room, and that can get very dark.
Yep.
It's tough. It's tough, and having just other people there to create with you, to film with you, to um, feed off of each other is really helpful. And we have a group chat, and it's nonstop about the mental side of being on the internet and having to, or not have, yeah, posting a lot and those comments and the engagement not doing well when you thought it really was a really good video, and it bombing, and you're like, what does this mean? Do I not know
My
what being
career
funny
over.
means?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, like, this is it. I'm pretty sure I say like, well, that's it for me. I say that like a lot.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
And how much can you put to the side? Because I am not even remotely in the league of yours, but there is the algorithm. There is things that are outside of your control. How much of that, with a bit of time, can you realize that you may have done a great video, for example, but there's other various lords involved?
Absolutely. It took me a really long time. I think I'm still trying to figure that out and to really feel confident and believe in the stuff that I create, whether, so I try to really focus on making something that I'm proud of, something that I could send to my sister, who is my biggest supporter, but also my biggest critic. And
I love
so
that.
if I believe that she thinks it'll be funny, or if she does think it's funny, or, um, just really focusing my energy on making something that I'm proud of. So regardless if it performs well or if it doesn't, it's still going to be something I'm proud of, hopefully. But it doesn't always happen that way. But that's sort of the mentality I try to keep.
I think that's really important, because, and there's no judgment. Like, I've spoken to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's got a different relationship. At the end of the day, you can't control so much. There's a lot of luck,
Yeah.
or at least yeah. And
There's a
then just
ton.
being,
It's, yeah.
going on.
Oh, I was just, yeah, saying there's a ton of uh, this, and there's so much in this industry that is so out of your control. And as somebody who loves being in control, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's really, I love control. I love knowing what's going to happen when it's going to happen. So it's really tough. So yeah, just trying to stay authentic to what you believe is funny or what you believe in, is really important. It's
I
hard
want to
though.
I want to dive into that because I think that's so important. I've been the guy where I've made stuff previously or done stuff where, my tension's always been for, authenticity, but maybe there's a bit of a side of something else. And at the end of the day, whether something's gone big or it's been recognized or it's led to a meeting or whatever, so many
Mm-hmm.
examples. Because things are so, in my mind, outside of my control, going back and look, you don't always feel it in the moment. Going back to at least like I actually did something that I'm proud of, I feel it would massively help because I've spoken to so many people on, off air, where if you're just doing content just for the sake of it and there's no real passion or like enthusiasm, that can be really hard mentally as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely, there will be periods of time where I do get sort of stuck in that I'm just going to do this video because it'll perform well, or I think it's going to perform well, not necessarily because I think it's funny or I believe in it or I worked really hard at it. It's just, what I know the algorithm will probably pick up that day. And it is soul sucking. It really is.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's hard to find that balance because at the end of the day, like being a content creator, you are, or an entertainer in general, like your job is to entertain people. And if what you're creating is entertaining to them, that's important as well. But if it's not something that you believe in or feel good about, I don't know. It's a tough balance. I think that there's room for both, or I think there can be
Yeah.
room for both.
I agree. There's two
Mm-hmm.
sides you want to look out for, obviously yourself, but also like provide something to an
Mm.
audience as well. It's also
Yeah,
interest.
absolutely.
It's also interesting on the doing screenwriting. When I first started, I was just writing. I'd write scenes, and then I'd get like 6 to 8 to 10 of my friends that would critique the screenplay, and each one would have completely different opinion. And I would try.
Yeah,
I'll be very
yeah.
quick. And I incorporated all their feedback, which made it
Mm.
so bad. So I cringe. And I showed this to a lady. It was my first screenplay I've ever written. I've spoken about this before, but I cringe even thinking about it. She was kind of like, she's done all of the comedies here. She's like our connection to Netflix.
Mm.
Cringeworthy. And I don't know why she took a meeting, but I look back at it because it's been a few years since. I'm like, I showed this lady this screenplay and I don't like any of it. And it kind of taught me that, yes, you still need to like write for other people, but if I'm doing it purely for someone else, I was so ashamed and I'm still ashamed. So that's the lesson for me. I cannot believe I showed it to anyone, but it shows you can take feedback on, but if it doesn't feel right or whatever your process is, it is not going to help you long term. And that's
Hmm.
something that you've been talking about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've definitely fallen into the trap of trying to take too many notes, like I think everything comes with, you got to take it with a grain of salt because at the end of the day, it is your vision, it is your project and your art, and your voice still has to be able to shine through. And a lot of times it's easy to get caught up in, I mean, as a fellow people pleaser, to get caught up in trying to follow all of these different things, and then you lose your voice in it. It's tricky. Yeah.
And you don't become proud of it. And then you like people can
Hmm.
like spiral and be like, what have I done? What have I created? Like, look at the example I've given. It's been quite a few years and I still, yeah. But also on that, like,
So,
I don't know what were you going to say?
oh no, I was just laughing.
Yes, it's one of those moments where I try not to lose too much sleep over, but also
Mm.
from the voice side. Unless if it's someone that, you mentioned you've got like two friends, for example, that you're writing with, but unless if someone is like in your head, sees everything that you're doing, people that give, let's say you've got your sister as well, people don't quite understand not only your vision, but also your voice. Like, what you're about. And so people can give feedback, which is good, but it's kind of in a vacuum if it's not like seeing the whole picture. And so I've received like feedback, whether it's for like writing, for example, and I like won a writing competition and I know. And
You won a writing competition?
yes.
Wow. Bravo. That's incredible. That's tough. That's really cool.
Thank you. I'll lower it down. There were a few winners. I wasn't just the winner, but yes, I know.
Hey, hey, still a winner. Still a
Thank
winner.
you.
That's
But
it. Yeah.
also on that, for a lot of people that are probably, there'd be some writers listening. I've received horrific feedback from other competitions, and they're like, I didn't even get placed, and then this one I win. So I just want to let people know that you can still have a good screenplay. I know we got on a different tangent. It doesn't mean
No.
anything. It depends on who's listening to it, and it goes back. Yes, tell me. There's a lot of
Absolutely. Yeah, there's and that can be with like anything with stand up, with somebody's favorite movie. Like
Mm.
I love the movie Christmas with the Cranks, and I've been rewatching and I love it. And there's so many people in my life who I'm like, it's like, that's a horrible movie. Like, what do you mean it's your favorite? And I'm like, what do you mean it's horrible? So it really does just depend on the audience. And like with stand up, the same joke could kill in one room and just bomb in another. So that's something that a lot of times I forget when writing or doing anything. It's like, well, just because it wasn't right for this person doesn't mean it's not for these people. I don't know. Yeah, tangent, but yeah.
No, it's a beautiful tangent, and I'm glad that we both say it, because even just reflecting back, because I've been trying to get, long story short, I actually got a deal for that script, but it didn't work out. Thank God it didn't work out. You know, the stereotypical, we'll go on another tangent. You know, the people
Right.
you know, those people that like can sense like, I don't know if you've had it. I hope you haven't, but you can live through my terror. Like they could sense the naivety and like try and pounce and take something. Effectively, I think they were trying to take it from an LA, I won't say, but an LA production company. And it went on for like 6 months, and they were trying to take my IP and not really use me.
Yeah.
I'm very, very, I've spoken on it. I'm very happy about it. It taught me so many things about, being in your power, saying that you've got something, being authentic to your vision, all things that
Yeah.
apply not only in the creative field, but also in life, and just being like, no, that's not okay. So it's a
Right.
beautiful, beautiful lesson.
Well, great.
I don't know how we got here, but oh yeah, like in terms of like stand up, for example, you've been doing stand up, I'm not sure for how long, but you're right. To me, it's really fascinating. You can absolutely kill in one room, and then, as you said, another room it might not go so well. And to me, that would be a bit of like a mind fuck, because there's so many different variables, and it might not necessarily be you. So how do you kind of deal with
Right.
that? That would drive me nuts.
Oh yeah, it drives me nuts. It drives me fucking bonkers. But I think it really does have to do with just remembering that I'm at the end of the day, I have to perform things that I believe in. So even if a joke does well in a room or multiple rooms, and at the end of the day, I'm like, just like, I don't like it. Like I just shouldn't do it then. And and if there's a couple that, are bombing that I really believe in, it makes me go back to the writing of it and like, okay, well, this is a joke. I don't know if it's reading that way. So maybe let's see if I can get to the same joke in a different way. It's sort of, I try to take it like constructive criticism. I try instead of spiraling, but I tend to spiral a lot. So that's sort of what I try to do.
I think it's, going back to longevity, it's really important. It can be easy to say like the very quick jokes that you might not necessarily resonate with. Two examples spring to mind. One of my guests, she was going through a different phase in her life, and she was doing really well. And then she, in her words, evolved, and those jokes didn't work for her. And, it's quite tough to transition out of your voice into a newer voice or whatever you want to call it. And she could say those jokes which she knew would get the laughs, but it didn't feel right for her. So she had to transition, which is scary. And then another example that springs to mind, this gentleman's been doing it for like 20, 30 years. If he bombs, but he believes in the joke, he's going to work a little bit extra harder. And if he says a joke where he just doesn't feel like, and he knows it's got luck because, he's been doing it for so long, he knows what kind of works and what's not, he's just going to throw it aside. He's willing to, which is very brave. I don't know if I necessarily have this. He's very brave where he's happy to, kind of get like stuck with not the endless applause, which is terrifying to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It really is scary. And I still feel like I'm pretty new to stand up. I've been doing it for a couple years. So the silence is like so scary and
the worst.
Oh, it's the worst. But I don't know. There's something about when a joke does do good that keeps you going a little bit. Like the high that you get from that, I'm like, like chasing that and just, and then it goes back to, why you even start comedy in the first place. And it's all that, to make people laugh and feel good, blah, blah, blah. It's all that stuff too. But it is scary. Yeah. I don't know if that will ever go away from me, being scared of the silence. And when it does happen, just being like, oh, it's like a gut punch. I don't know if that'll ever go away, but maybe it's a good thing it doesn't.
Well, there's two factors. One, it depends on your process, but two, it can inspire you to alter or embrace it in the moment. Like people still get nervous that I know who've been doing this for like 20 years, but they transmute that emotion or that feeling to work for them. I had one guest a few years ago. He is one of the lords of improv, and he's probably got 100 credits on all the sitcoms. He used to get deathly anxious performing. He butterflies. He was like a nervous wreck, horrible. And he had a conversation with himself. I can't remember it exactly, where he turned the butterflies to work for him, that he's excited and he's going to use that energy. And I found that remarkable because he's a genuine guru and he's been able to do plenty of other stuff. And I think he's also got a podcast as well. And I found that crazy. Someone that was nervous, I couldn't even walk in the room because I was so nervous. So yes, it's still there, just the kind of how we perceive it or what we do with it. So I am very optimistic for you.
Thank you.
So
at least somebody is.
You mentioned, so how's the improvement side from when you first started to now? How are you feeling with it? I'm sure that it goes like up and down, but 2 years is a few years is a long time.
Yeah, it does go up and down. And there will be, within the past 2 years, there will be like a few months at a time where I don't do stand-up at all. So it 2 years, but really it's like it feels like less than that. But I will say I still get so nervous, but it does get a little bit easier to get on stage. It gets easier a little bit. Yeah, yes and no. I don't really know what I'm saying, but no, I think navigating, or the biggest thing that I've learned is that each room is going to be different. And I think that is really hopeful, helps me stay hopeful. If like a room bombs, I'm like, oh, that was everybody in the entire world, that was the mentality I had going into it. So just doing a bunch of different rooms is so helpful with reminding yourself that this isn't everybody and you might be right for this room and not the other one. So that I think is the biggest thing that I've learned over doing it over the past couple of years.
I think that's brilliant. We can apply that outside of stand-up in life. If we just kind of do, simplifying it, the same thing 100 times, there's a certain level of growth that you can be minimized. But by trying different things, we're getting different perspectives, and you also grow, but it also gets you to see different sides. I think that's a really unique take. Did you figure that out just by trying different places, or you're like, you know what, I don't want to just do the one room?
I think I figured out just by doing different places, because, doing just the one, comfortable room comfortable, it was like, okay, my world was so small. So by doing a bunch of different rooms, it broadens your horizon, and there's so much more opportunity to make so many other people and different people laugh. And so, I think I learned it along the way. I don't think it was something that I really sought out, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
That is very cool. That's very exciting. Everyone can apply a bit of that out, even if you do stand up or not. Do you remember the first time that you performed, and how did it go?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So I was dating a comedian at the time, and it was his first show on tour. It was in Alabama, and it was on my birthday. And it was like maybe a week or two before the show, he was like, you should come open for me. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be so, like, man, that'd be good. And then he was like, okay, well, I just told my manager that you're opening for me. So you're opening for me, you're coming. And I was like, okay, yeah, totally. So that was my first time ever doing stand-up.
Oh,
was
wow.
Opening for him in Alabama. Yeah, on my birthday. It was crazy.
I've never heard anything remotely like that. That's a lot of
Yeah.
trust.
It it was it was. And I had never done like an open mic or anything before. I had thought about doing stand-up. I've like written jokes before that. But I just like never really had the balls to, jump into it. And I was sort of pushed into it, which thank God, because I fell in love and I love doing it. But yeah, it was my very first experience, was just kind of being thrown in the deep end.
Wow, I'm speechless. And how do you think you went for your first time? Obviously,
I think for
well.
my first time, yeah, I think it was probably better than a lot of other shows I've done since
It
then.
often happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this whole, movement. But yeah, it was a great experience. It was so fun. The audience was so warm and just really nice. And yeah, it was a great experience. I don't think that, and from doing open mic since then, if doing an open mic was the first time I did stand up, I don't know if I would have gone back, because open mics can be tough.
And most
Yeah.
people in the room, or at least in my experience, they're other stand-ups. They're not really even paying
Mhm.
attention.
Mhm.
And so it's not quite the same experience as well, because you can't.
At
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they're all like in their notes,
yeah, and
or
it's
like
just, it can be
playing
dead silence because people are like writing
because they're
down.
not listening. Yeah, and you're like,
Yeah.
cool.
So
Yeah.
how's everyone
Yeah.
doing? Yeah. Just, you just hit the pen on the
Yeah,
paper.
yeah.
Yeah. I've always I heard a while ago that someone brought like a girl, like a first date to see their stand up, and they weren't like that seasoned. And to me, that is the worst thing that I could ever do, is to bring, I've got a girlfriend of close to 5 years, so it won't happen. But let's say in the previous life, to
Mhm.
bring someone that you are on a date with to see you do stand up for the first time. First of all, it's risky as fuck, especially if you've been
Mhm.
doing it for 20 years, because it might not be, I guess it's telling, but I would never do that, especially if
Yeah,
I'm
no.
just starting out.
Yeah. Hell no. There's
Yeah.
there's no way in fucking hell. Even if we were dating for a long time, I don't think I would invite a date to I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, good for them, but that's rough.
I
Yeah.
remember at the improv place that I studied at, this guy's like, yeah, I brought this girl to check out my improv. And they're like, why would you?
Oh, that's
Improv's
somehow
even worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's coming
Oh
back to me.
God.
And I just remember everyone's face drops like, why? He's like, well, I'm proud of my improv. I'm like, yeah, dude, you can be proud of your improv, but then you can also be proud of your improv. So they went for like drinks like 15 minutes before. It wasn't even enough to get to know the person. She did the first half of the show and then never came back. And then he had to perform for the second half.
Oh no. And did he know that she left like mid-show?
Yeah. He like messaged
Oof.
and responded. Yeah. How do
Oh,
you?
that's
Yeah.
tough.
Yep.
That made my stomach hurt a little
I
bit.
know. I feel. I don't even know this guy too well, but I was somehow involved in the conversation.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm like, first of all, thank you for allowing me in. I'm going to be talking about this and writing about this for the rest of my life. Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. But
First of all, thank you.
yeah, this is a
That's
gift.
so funny. I think there's an episode of Broad City where Alana is like seeing some guy and she goes to one of his improv shows. And it was just, oh my God, it's hysterical. I can't remember exactly what happened, but yeah, that just reminded me of that. I didn't know that happened in real life.
It doesn't. There's a very unique
Doesn't.
individual, and you've been doing improv for a while. I think you've studied at like the big three. I've written it down somewhere: Second City, Groundlings, and Upright Citizens Brigade. So you know that improv. When improv's good, it's great. When improv's bad, it's
It's bad. Yeah. That's a tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had anybody that I was dating see me do improv. I like to keep it that way.
My one friend brought a girl, but he was level 1. Level 1 improv? Yeah.
Okay.
Level 1?
Yeah.
I encourage everyone on the planet to do at least a level 1 improv. I think it's the best thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And like other people brought their friends and family. Like my family don't, they're already like somewhat ashamed, not really, that I'm doing this because I used to be an accountant, and to show them that this is what I'm leaving accounting for this, I don't think it would be tactical.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's incredible. I love that shift.
Oh, yeah. It's so how did we'll go back. How did you find improv? What drew you to it? Did you do it at school? You did it afterwards?
Yeah, so in college, because I was an acting major, we had to take improv classes as part of our like prerequisite.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and I think we had to take like one or two classes, and I fell in love with it. I just like I loved it. And so I just kept going, and I had a really, really amazing teacher as well, who ended up also being my screenwriting teacher. And then after college, he was my sketch team's coach. So he's a big, big influence on why I am pursuing comedy now. Um, but yeah, it was, so after I did all the classes that you could in college, and then when I graduated, I did Second City and then UCB and Groundlings. So I continued after college, but I found my love for it in college.
I'm
Kind of
so
cool.
I'm so happy that you found, whether it's a mentor or teacher, whatever you want to call it, and someone that you've kept going, because it's in this space, as we said, there's so many different opinions that might not resonate. At improv, for example, I've had a great time, but teachers would contradict each other and I would hate it. Some would have more rules and some wouldn't. I'm like, no, this is supposed to be plain fun, and I'm stubborn, so that kind of like pushed me away. But
Mm,
it's so nice that when you can like take away, so obviously you've taken away a lot because you've got like the sketch team and you've done other stuff along the way. But to have someone that can kind of like mentor you, someone that you trust, I think that is so beautiful. So is this
yeah.
someone that's played kind of like a large role in your creative life?
Yeah, huge. I mean, um, yeah, he's an incredible comedian, writer as well. Timmy Tamasia, I'll shout out. He lives in Omaha now because he has like a beautiful wife and kids, which is like, all right,
What
fuck
a
off.
loser.
But yeah, cool. So he's not our coach anymore, but we still, hit him up for questions. But yeah, he really was my introduction into comedy because going into college, I didn't think I was funny or didn't think I was capable of writing jokes or,
Oh, wow.
making people laugh. I really was just interested in theatrical and like dramatic side of acting, which I still love. Um, but he really, I think it was like there was a moment in my screenwriting class with him. We had to write short films, a short film script that we ended up producing for like our senior project. And I was so nervous because I'd never written anything before, and you had to share it in front of your entire class, like read
Yeah.
it aloud, and like a cold read. It was brutal, and I was so nervous. And after he approached because he was also my improv teacher at the same time, I think. And in class, he was like, "Hey, Paige, I just want to let you know, like that's really like you should keep going at that. Like there's something there." And I was like, "What?" And I still remember to this day. I was like, "Oh my God!" It was so giddy and so just like touched that he was compelled to be like, hey, this is something that you could get really good at. You should keep going. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe thinking about it now, I probably owe all of my comedic successes to him. So thanks, Timmy. Um,
You don't.
yeah, it was awesome.
It's so great to hear a story like that. Something small in his mind has led to something
Yeah.
large for you. And just seeing someone, like just seeing he's like, you know what, I recognize potential, or I see something good in this, and then actually carrying on with it. I think that's
Hmm.
really important. And we can all do that to people as well in life, whether it's creative or not. Just say, just go a little bit more forward and look what's happened. It's completely changed your life. I love hearing
Completely.
stories like that. Yeah.
Yeah, completely changed my life. I really, yeah, and now comedy is all I think about 24/7, and not in like a healthy way, which, you gotta,
There's
you
highs
gotta
and
learn how
lows.
to set boundaries. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, of course, of course. Um, but yeah, I mean, who knows, where I would be career wise without that sort of mentorship from him or that even that simple comment. Like, who knows? Yeah.
I know I'm going to say it 100 times, but I love that. I love hearing that. We've all had indirect or direct mentors that have pushed us, often for the negative, like you suck, don't do
Yeah.
that. And people don't realize that, yeah, that we
Yeah.
can be, words can have a lot of meaning in that sense. And, I'm definitely not that mindful. I try to be, But if you
Mhm.
say, I've had heaps of people and I don't do stand up, I have so many people I used to when I was first starting out come up to me like, I want some advice for stand up. I'm like, why are you asking me? Thank you. I'm not a stand up. But essentially, people were just asking me permission to do stand up. That's what I figured out after like quite a few.
Mm,
I'm like, okay, you don't need to go to me, but I think you can do it. If it's something you think about, at least give it a go. Because if you're going to be thinking, and often people would take like a year, I'd be like, you thinking about it is plaguing you more than actually doing it. And you're
yeah.
probably going to go to an open mic with like 15 people and no one's even looking at you because, as we said, they're going to be writing notes. But just a
Yeah.
little bit of encouragement goes so far, and that's our cure to save the world.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That's so true. And I find myself doing that too, like asking for permission to do something that I'm scared of. I do that a lot. Um, yeah.
It's an interesting concept because I also do this. We all do this. Sometimes we're scared of being like great, and I believe that everyone has greatness within them. Doesn't matter if what it is, but we all are kind of like, it goes into the theme of the podcast. Sometimes we're scared to succeed. We're scared to imagine a higher life for us. And I don't know.
Mm,
I've got many different theories, but it is so interesting that sometimes we just need someone to give us permission, which we don't actually. We can give ourselves permission. I don't know where it comes from. I'm wondering if you've ever
yeah.
thought about it or anything springs to mind, or you're also as confused as me.
I think I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, it is something that I struggle with a lot, actually, just seeking permission and validation from somebody other than myself. And I don't know what that is. I don't know. I have no idea what it is. It's really interesting and something so human about it too. I feel like a
Yes,
lot of
we
people
all.
can relate to that. Yeah, it's
One
interesting.
of my 200 theories is also like the family perspective, and we don't need it. We can go as deep as you want to, especially like for creators. A lot of the time, I don't know where you stand on this, and only dive in as much as you want. A lot of the parents can be very like, "What, you're doing this like comedy thing? What's going on?" And that can also play because we didn't necessarily get the 100% support that we would have liked. So now we're like trying to prove to the world. So I don't know
Mm,
if you had that, or how your parents kind of, your family reacted to doing this space. But I guess they probably were okay if they, inverted commas, allowed you to do acting at college.
yeah, I think they they were very supportive. And I say that reluctantly because there has always been a sort of hint of what the fuck are you doing, and but I think their support has come from, they my parents were both adopted and they didn't really necessarily have the perfect upbringing or, great upbringing. They didn't really have the freedom, or at least they didn't feel like they had the freedom to sort of chase their dreams. And that has always been something that they have instilled in myself, my sister, my brother. And we're all sort of creatives. Like my brother is a baseball player, and my sister is she wants to be she's a musician or producer. So we all kind of took these like different paths. But yeah, the deal that I made with my parents when studying acting in college was that I would get a degree. I wouldn't just, a certificate. They're like, you have to get a college degree. I don't care what it's in, just get the degree. That was like sort of our common ground. So, but yeah, it's still, even to this day, sometimes they'll make comments of, if I'm having a kind of a shitty day or like not feeling it, they'll be like, well, you can always do something else. It's there's always that little,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's not what
little
I
like,
want to hear.
yeah, like, no, I need the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's like, yeah, we
but
never
that being
believed in you to
said,
begin with. I'm joking.
right, yeah, they're like, we wanted you to figure it out. We didn't want to tell you. Yeah.
Uh,
But that being said, they have been really supportive, and my family, they've all been like my biggest fans, which is I'm so lucky to have that.
I'm glad you have that. It's sort
Yeah.
of to what you said. My parents are also very supportive. One of my friends, I won't say who, so I'll just use names because I'll get into
Mhm.
trouble. But she broke up with her boyfriend of many years, and they thought they were going to get married. And the parents, sorry that I'm laughing because I
No,
think you'll
don't.
appreciate. I know you've got a dark sense of humor as well, which I love.
Right. Yeah.
And so she broke up with her long-term boyfriend, and the parents said, yeah, he just wasn't right for you. Like, just it was never going to work out. And you guessed it, they're engaged.
Oh no.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, that's very hard to recover from.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough comment. My dad, one time I broke up with like high school boyfriend, I'll never forget. He said, well, all he said was, well, on to the next. And it was just, I don't know why that reminded me of that,
No,
but
yeah.
yeah, that something like that, that'd be hard to recover from. That's a tough one,
Yeah.
but
Do you just sweep
wishing
it
them the
under?
best.
Yeah. Do you just sweep it under the rug and pretend it never happened? Um,
Yeah, of
I kind of wanted to be a fly on the wall for the next encounter, but
course. Yeah,
yeah, and then
holidays
just
coming up. Yeah.
yeah,
Just, let it marinate over years and years and then see what happens.
this will be a great episode. But
Hmm.
going back to your family. I think it's really nice at the end of the day that parents don't quite, not all, but most don't necessarily understand this world, and they're still giving you loving support, even though we might not want to hear it in that way. They're still like there, and you've got your siblings that support you. I think that comes a long way, and I'm glad that they've been able to support you in at least like a high capacity. I can see you smiling, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, me too. I mean, same to you. Like it really is, it makes a huge difference. I know a lot of my friends who are, creative people whose parents just absolutely shun them and for that. And that's tough. I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to
It would be.
continue pursuing this, right?
Mm.
There's so many lows that you have to have that support. You have to have that those people that you love and will hold you up during those times. Yeah, it's
And it's
hard.
all. Sorry for cutting off. I said sorry. But
Mm-mm.
it's also credit to you because if people don't have that, you've also got a team of friends. Your sister, for example, but you've got your team, whether it's your writing partners or your sketch group. You've
Mhm.
also gone another way that it doesn't just have to be on the family, and I find that also really empowering as well. In that the situations might not be ideal, but we can always find people that are in like-minded that can help us thrive together. And yeah.
Mhm. Of course, yeah. And a lot of times my friends help me in ways that my family couldn't, and vice versa.
Yeah.
There's so many different types of support that you need as somebody who is a creative. And I think a lot of creative people can be very tapped into their emotions, which can make things a lot harder and a lot, more dramatic. And so, yeah, having all of those different support groups, it's really, really helpful.
I agree. And this just kind of sprung to mind, the collaboration, because when you're doing stand up, that's an individual sport. Sometimes, I know you're not doing this, sometimes when you're writing can be individual, but you're doing writing with friends and you're also doing sketch and you've done improv. So I'm wondering, what do you prefer, or does it depend on the medium, or how do you kind of balance that?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it depends on, mm, no, I mean, yeah, it kind of does depend on the day. I think I really love collaborating and performing with my friends. Like my sketch group is just my favorite thing in the whole world. I
Oh,
love
nice.
the group mind and I love being on stage together and I love bombing together too. That's so fun. There's something about bombing with other
Yeah, you
people. It's just, yeah,
trauma bonding.
it's
Nah,
just,
you
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it so much. Um, so yeah, I would say anything collaborative is probably up there for me as like my favorite thing. Hmm.
It's very interesting. Like when I do writing and I'm putting it out to the universe, I've been looking for the duo, the trio, and I haven't been able to find long term. I've worked with great people, and
Hmm.
I'm not a professional improviser. I've just done classes. But when I've been doing improv, there's been like two. When I first started improv, I was terrible and I wasn't a team player. I'd be like in my head, no, they should have said this or have done that. And we realize how stupid that is. It's improv. It's not, I must have been a massive control freak recovering, I guess. And
Yeah.
I
Hey,
would
me
hate that.
too.
But then
Yeah.
as I did a few more levels and progressed, I realized the joy in the unexpected and with someone that I might not even view as funny can make the scene so much better. And first of all, the judgment of someone not being funny doesn't actually help because they're funny. Everyone's funny in their own way, even if they're not being funny. Like I find it so unique the way that you can play and explore with someone, especially with completely different brains. And it actually, not only did it transform me as a human, I really credit improv with a massive growth, but it changed my view on comedy and writing and how people see things. And yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm sure you've had this a lot, but have you noticed tangible changes within you from when you started doing improv?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say it's pretty similar to what you just explained. It's and I think I found the beauty and importance of collaboration when it comes to creating, especially something funny or comedy. Having as many eyes or as much input as well. It can get dangerous if there's too much, I think. But I just love and appreciate everybody's different perspectives because there's so many. It's endless, and it's cool to see the same joke perceived in different ways. It sort of broadens your horizon. Yeah, I think I've said that like a lot today, so I'm so sorry. I don't know why I
don't
keep
think so,
using that.
and it's a great word. So no sorries needed
I don't think.
whatsoever.
Okay, good, because
I
I
like
don't think
it.
I've said that in like years, and I'm just today. I'm like, that's like the only thing I can say. So,
It's a good
but
word. But even more on the improv side is because, obviously, well, especially me, I'm just living in my world. And to see different
mm,
minds work was really interesting because you kind of, you might watch your favorite TV show, so you think comedy is a certain way or you think interaction's a certain way. But that is like a 0.00% of the pie. And it is actually so refreshing to see how someone thinks. Not even
yeah,
if it's funny or not. It's just like, oh, and then by seeing someone else think or act or speak in a different way, it actually, as we broadens our horizons, it
it does. Very
yeah.
good. Yeah,
See what I did
it
there? Yeah.
totally does. Yeah, you're learning so and gathering information, and I think that it can be so fun.
Agreed. So
Yeah.
you have a very interesting story of how you like get to improv. Were you a professional or you were quite a high level talent gymnast, right? When you were younger,
Yeah. Yes, I was.
was
Yeah, I
that
was a
the
competitive gymnast.
competitive? That's the word.
Yeah.
Yes. So can you give me a bit of a backstory of how you found it? And I guess you're assuming this would be your career at that stage.
Gymnastics.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember how I started. I started with mommy and me classes when I was 2, and it was just something. My parents are both extremely athletic, so all of us grew up doing some sort of sport, and so my parents put me in a lot of different sports growing up, and gymnastics was just something that stuck. It was my first love. It was everything. It was everything to me, and I wanted to be a competitive gymnast for the rest of my life, which, I think a gymnast's like career is over like 25, maybe. Even that's pushing
Whoa.
it. Yeah,
Whoa.
that's old.
I thought acting was
Yeah.
bad for.
No, gymnastics is so interesting. It's very, yeah, I have a lot to say about it. But yeah, I wanted that to be my whole life and my career. And after retiring, I wanted to open up my own gym and coach for the rest of my life. Yeah.
And then the moment I think you got an injury and
Mm-hmm.
life changed, you said it's your first
Life
love, so that would have been
changed.
a crushing blow. Obviously, you've recovered. What was going on then? And I assume you would have had to change your entire way of life or thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It was, yeah, I was 13, which is so young to experience a career heartbreak. It was weird, but I I injured my knee, and when I tried to go back, my body just kept rejecting the sport. I just kept getting hurt, and I remember one of my doctors was like, "You're going to kill yourself if you keep doing this. Like your body's just not it's not ready, or it's not built for it anymore." I don't know what happened, but so I ended up having to stop, and I was really bored and depressed. I didn't have a lot of friends at school because my whole life was gymnastics, And I was there, I was at gymnastics like over 20 hours a week, which as a kid, that's a lot
That's
of
a
hours.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I never, got invited to sleepovers or birthday parties. So it was really lonely. And I remember it was like a local theater, community theater. They were casting for ensemble, I think for Seussical the musical, and I was able to tumble and do all of those things. And I loved being the center of attention. So I was like, perfect, lovely. And yeah, from there, the rest is history. I got an ensemble, it's like a Jaguar or something. And I only got the part because I could do gymnastics, like I could do flips and stuff.
That's very
Um,
cool.
yeah.
One thing
Yeah.
led
So
to.
I just kept going.
Isn't that interesting where you kind of experience like your first massive loss in that regard and how you're feeling lost? So then you find something else which puts you in a completely different,
Mhm.
excitement level. Then you've been pursuing that area as well. I always find that very interesting because sometimes we think if we lose the one thing, we'll never get anything else. But
Of
you
course.
found
Yeah.
that, but it's not just the one thing. Like the things that you do is like five different things as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so, I thought it was the end of the world. I was like, that's it. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I thought maybe I could still coach, but I was so young still. And gymnastics it changes so much over the years. And I don't know. And honestly, I'm fucking glad it didn't work out. Gymnastics is crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's a crazy sport. And there's a lot of toxicity in that sport, I think. And so I am so thankful for it. It's taught me so much, but there's also a lot of things that I still struggle with today as an adult that were from being a gymnast.
Anything that you want to share or spring to mind?
Oh, I mean, insecurity in general, I think is huge. And also the pursuit of trying to be perfect with the knowledge of knowing you'll never be perfect was so crazy. I spent,
Yeah.
right, like 11 years of my life trying to get the perfect score, knowing it's never going to happen. Nobody ever gets a 10.0. I think it's happened like maybe a couple times in history, or I don't know. But just knowing that and working towards something you'll never get is just so crazy. It's weird to have that, pounded into my head as a
Yes.
6-year-old. It's weird
And the idea of perfect doesn't exist in the world
at
as
all.
well. And so
Right,
you're teaching a
right.
young person to pursue perfection, which doesn't
Hmm.
exist. And so
Hmm.
I can only imagine that would also be a bit of a mind fuck because if you
Yeah.
see the world through that lens, it's
Hmm.
not real in that sense.
Right. Yeah. And the word perfect was it's so important in that sport for some reason. I just remember growing up, like the word perfect was used so much, and it's such a ridiculous. It's impossible. It doesn't exist, um, and we knew that, but we wanted it.
Yeah.
It's such a mind fuck, especially
Unattainable
as a
goal.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely struggle with that a lot, like trying to, you know, write the perfect joke or do this a certain like the perfect way, and that a lot of times paralyzes me from doing anything ever. So it's like, well, if I'm not going to do it perfectly, I might as well just not do it. And there's a lot of back and forth with that I still struggle with, but
You, I'm gonna,
yeah.
I'm going to challenge you on that because one, having the awareness is so much better than not having the awareness. So you'll be able to like hit in the
Mm.
moment, but also just doing improv, stand up, writing, content creation. You would have those moments, but if you thought it like that all the time, you wouldn't be able to do any of it. So yes, it probably happens. And yes, you might be a bit critical of it, which we all are, no judgment whatsoever.
Mm.
At the end of the day, that awareness, you're still doing it. Because if you had
Yeah,
that, you wouldn't be doing anything. Like you just wouldn't be able to move forward. So yes,
that's
that's
so
fine.
true. Yeah, thank you. Whew, thank you
Yeah,
for that.
that'll be
It's
two hundred
true.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, actually, talking about like therapy in the sense, this was also a game changing advice for you. Um,
Mm.
you had writer's block, so I assume this was either through stand up or maybe sketch or I don't know what else you were doing, and you saw your therapist, and your therapist gave you life changing advice. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? And can you fill in the gaps?
Yeah, absolutely. So It was during the pandemic, and I was having writer's block with sketch writing. I was taking online classes, at Groundlings, like sketch writing classes, and also still writing for my sketch group. We would do like Zoom shows, which at least we tried. At least we did.
Yeah,
At
yeah, I
least we
get
were
you.
trying.
That sigh, I feel it.
It was
Yeah.
yeah, it was a tough. So I remember talking to my therapist, and she was like, and a lot of her clients are entertainers, which is so helpful too, because she gets it. A lot of yeah, I still see her today. She's like the
Cool.
best. So she's like watched the whole thing, which has been really cool. So she
Oh, so she's seen the
suggested,
journey. Nice.
yeah. So she suggested that I start posting on TikTok because at that time I had like 40 followers, like of my friends and just family. And she was like, just turn the camera on, start recording, and improvise a character. She's like, it's like you're performing for your friends and family, like those 40 people. You're performing for them. It's just enough pressure to get yourself to improvise. Because that was where I got a lot of inspiration, and if worked through writer's block, was to improvise with friends. And
Great
so she's like,
advice.
well, just do that, just do it on TikTok and start posting different ideas, and your friends can chime in or they can't. And yeah, and that, yeah, it changed my entire life. And then one day, like one video blew up, and here I am doing it full time. It's crazy.
Isn't you're lucky to have like two mentors in the sense that have like
Mhm.
actually changed your life. What do you think would have happened? I know it's not necessarily a healthy game. Do you think if she never gave that advice, do you think you would have been doing this, or you would have found another way?
I don't know. I mean, I think eventually I would have started posting on TikTok, just seeing other people growing so much, and reaching audiences that they wouldn't have if they didn't start posting on TikTok, and being inspired in that way. I think I would have eventually started posting. But I was reluctant to it. Like I really didn't want to. I felt too old. I felt
You're in your
it felt
20s when you were
I
starting, right?
know.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
so yes.
I know because
So I was
TikTok's is like for people think it's like for teenagers and
yeah. And it took me a really long time to even download the app.
yeah.
And when I did, I was like, oh, this is so fun and silly. And I would be on, of course, I'd be on it for like 4 hours when I woke up. I think we all had that
Yeah.
relationship at first with TikTok, but I think eventually I would have started, but I don't know. I think things would look a lot differently if she didn't suggest that and I didn't go through with it.
So crazy how, you went for writer's block, which I'm sure,
Hmm.
gave that advice to improvise, which is great advice, but then also pushed you in another direction. So it's brilliant advice because it was twofold and it resulted in massive stuff for you. And it also kind of
Hmm.
gave you permission or the confidence to,
Right.
actually do it. And I
Hmm.
just love hearing these stories. They're so contagious when someone, and if it feels right,
Hmm.
people can give advice, and if it doesn't feel right, then like flush it down the toilet.
Of
But
course.
you
Yeah.
took the advice, and your life has changed. Like it's just
Yeah.
not like you're very excited. Anything, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just crazy to think about. Like my life completely changed, and I've met so many incredible people because of TikTok, and I've grown as a comedian, a creator. Like I've found my voice, or I'm, gotten closer to finding it. I feel like, it changes as you get older, but
Yeah, a journey.
yeah. So yeah, it really is crazy. I'm just thinking about that time and like what my life looked like then versus now, and it's nuts. It's really, yeah.
I'm very happy that you got that, and I've got a few things that spring to mind. I would also imagine because you're doing acting, and it's very
Mhm.
hard to kind of get your foot through the door. And I know you've done stuff, but you're also kind of changing the narrative of how you're perceived by doing all of these different videos. Was that ever a consideration?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I love so much about social media is people, it gives people the freedom to create what they want, and, have people see them in a way that we have control over. Whereas before, I felt like I was auditioning a lot right out of college. and I kept getting asked to audition for these roles that it was just like, that's just not me. Like, I know my strengths and I know, you know, how I want to be perceived as a performer, and I'm just not getting the opportunity. And social media has given me that opportunity to create my own voice and show people like, hey, this is, you know, this is the kind of performer I want to be. And I think it's a crazy time, because before social media, there really wasn't room for that for actors. You know, you had to just kind of pay your dues, do roles that you didn't necessarily think was a good fit, but you got casted for, or the grind of it all, which I think is still very real. But social media, it's really, really cool in that way.
I think it's like really cool because I read it somewhere that you, and this happens with everyone, you were kind of put in a box, and that people saw you in a certain way. And that can be really annoying because we see ourselves, like, they don't even know who we are. And these gatekeepers think we have to be this person. And that is very annoying. But then to not only, one, like, you can give up, or two, just kind of, you know, you're still going with the flow, but you're taking control of the narrative and saying, you can see me in this, but look what else I can do. So you're actually not allowing it to halt you, which is, so that's one of the massive, you know, I always talk about the negatives of social media, but that's a really positive, like, we can take control of the narrative. We don't need to just accept what's happening. We can show the world what we're capable of. And I think that's just brilliant.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, because before, when the auditions I would get would be for like the stereotypical like Asian girl with her, you know, nose in a book and just maybe with an accent. And I am Asian American, but I grew up in Sacramento, California, in a very small conservative white neighborhood. So I am very whitewashed, as they would say. I don't have that part of me. And so to get audition after audition where I was only seen as Asian, I was seen as Asian first and Paige second, it got really, really old. And social media is, you know, like we were just saying, giving me the opportunity to be like, hey, I can also do this though. So yeah.
Good for you that, you know, obviously, I don't even have the words to explain, but frustrating to say the least, when like, no, there's more to me and you're not even perceiving me in the way that I actually am. One example, I've got two examples that spring to mind. My last guest, so he's going to be in Avatar: The Last Airbender. He's in a few he's a great human.
It's huge.
He's the main character in Kim's Convenience. And before all of that, he was talking about, you know, he also is from Korean heritage, right? And he was saying that, like, when he was getting interviews, especially at the start, that they're like, oh, just do an Asian accent. And an Asian accent. I really like
the Asian accent.
The stupidity of an Asian. He's like, what type? And,
which one?
And, you know, things have like changed, but, you know, there's still work to be done in that regard. But, you know, finally he got a role actually playing a Korean human, and that actually changed his role. No, but like, not necessarily a stereotype, you know what I mean when I say human. And
of course.
And through that role, he played, you know, what was expected of him, but then he used that as a springboard where he can do what he wants now through, because it was such a big role. And I also found that empowering, that, you know, not only did he, you know, he embraced that side, but he still put the human elements, and he allowed himself to shine in that role. And, you know, that was amazing show, amazing role. And now look at like what's happened with his career, because he, you know, embraced it and then used it for good, like you have in the sense, like not just being like, oh, this again, you know what I mean?
Right.
Even though that show's
I mean, like you said earlier, we definitely are moving in the right direction. Of course, we've made so many amazing strides in the industry to make it more inclusive for everybody. But, you know, Hollywood is old school Hollywood is known for dehumanizing people of color. And it's been really cool to see that human aspect come back into just these characters who, you know, might be Korean, might be Hispanic or whatever, but that's a part of who they are. It's not who they are. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
From a screenwriting, sorry for cutting, a screenwriting perspective, if like I'm Jewish, for example, if a character
Mhm.
was specifically Jewish and that's the only thing about them, like, oh, I don't get rid of them. I don't want them. Shoot, there needs to be.
Right.
It cannot just be the character. And not that
Hmm.
there's that much surprisingly, but it's like the screenwriter and me, not even like the good human. It's just like write authentic characters. Just do that. Yeah. Anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's funny. It's true. It's one dimensional. I mean, people, writers and like there's so much more talented than writing one dimensional characters, or we would hope so.
Yeah.
So it can be really frustrating seeing that. Yeah.
So now that you kind of like changed your narrative, you've taken control of your life by, doing these videos, they've blown up. It's also led into, and we can talk about all this stuff like for many hours. It's led into a show that I think you're writing, producing, the whole works, Pillow Talk. So I imagine
Mhm.
that came from also the videos and the contents. Was it something that you were thinking about? How did you get to Pillow Talk?
Yeah, actually, it was another. I think it was another time where I was having writer's block again. When it came to my TikTok videos and Instagram videos, um, and I just wanted to do something that felt different. That was just a different side of me, and something fun, still and silly, and still in the comedic world, but just different. And that's where I came up with Pillow Talk, as like a talk show. I really wanted to show, and also I don't show a lot of my own personality online. It's a lot of personas.
Yep.
And I was like, it'd be kind of fun to just, be relaxed and not feel like I have to perform as somebody not me. And a lot of content creators, comedians that I have on the show do that online. They have these characters and sketches and stuff. So I just thought it would be really cool to show a different side of us. So that's sort of where the inspiration came from. Was I was craving something different. I wanted another creative outlet that didn't feel so, because TikTok and stuff, because I do it consistently. And I've been doing it for almost 3 years now, which is crazy. But doing it for that long consistently, there's times I'm like, oh, it just gets old. Like, I love doing it, but I want to do something else too. So that's sort of where the inspiration for that came from.
It's very cool because it applies all the stuff that you've learned as well. And you're also adding
Mm-hmm.
producing. So it's kind of like everything that you've learned along the way, whether it's even like sketch, for example, improv, collaborating with people, trying to be funny, but also like recognizing you'll get all of that stuff. Everything you've learned has been put into this. And I've seen most of them and it's really entertaining. And we'll put it in the episode notes so people can check it out. But isn't it cool? Like, you thought you wanted to be a gymnast, you're doing acting, you still want to be an actor, but then
Mm-hmm.
through that pursuit has led into all of these things. And now you're doing your own show and you're also producing it. It's a funny world when you kind of like put your hand up and say, you know what, I want to try different things, because we don't
Mm-hmm.
always have the courage to do it. You kind of alluded that sometimes you don't necessarily have it, but I've challenged you that you're just doing the stand-up, the writing, the improv, and now this show that, there's a courage can go a long way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. Thank you so much for, wow. I'm so,
Also,
my ego is like, whew.
I think it's
But
great.
thank you. Yeah. And that is something I think that's really sort of beautiful about this industry, is like there's room for everybody. And I oftentimes forget that. And, everybody in it is so capable of doing so many different things. There's so many different skills that everybody has. And it's really, yeah, so that's what I love about this industry, is just the space that there is for everybody.
Cool. And yes, we said it'll be in the episode notes, but what's your pitch about what the show is so people can check it out?
Okay, what is my pitch?
I know it's very hard.
Okay.
I hate that. You take as long as you want. Like when people say, "So what's your
Thank
show
you.
about?" I'm like, "Oh, it's funny." Yeah.
You're like, okay, yeah. So basically, it's a talk show style show where I interview my guests while we're lying in bed. And it's based off of the sort of vulnerable, raunchy, hopefully relatable stories and conversations that happen after adult activities like pillow talk. And I figured that luring my guests into laying in bed with me, that it would create them to feel a little bit more comfortable, cozy physically, and then being more vulnerable and telling me all of their deepest, darkest secrets, which so far has worked.
Has worked well. And
Yeah.
what people will be able to check it out. I think you said there's 9 episodes and they're not too long, which is great. So people can binge watch them as well multiple times, which is exciting.
Yeah. So there's 6 episodes out, but there'll be 3 more coming out over the next few weeks. They're short. I wanted to keep it sort of snack size, as people have said. Yeah, and also my attention span is, if I'm not like driving or something where I'm doing something where I can zone out and listen to like a podcast or whatever, it's hard for me to watch a really, really long video. That's not a movie or show, so I sort of catered to myself too.
I think that's great in this day and world. I wanted like a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and you can still do it in like that 7-minute time span. Do you have the guests for a long time and then just pick out the best bits, or are they there for a short time? Or it depends.
They were there. We got about 30 minutes of footage for each guest, so not too long.
Nice.
It was pretty quick. We because we shot all of it within like 3 days, so we had like 3 or 4 people a day. Cool. So it was a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
It wasn't super long, which was also kind of fun. We were just like, okay, bye.
Yeah, I think that it sounds awesome, and I'm challenging you for season 2. Remember, we don't need to take everyone's advice on to do part 1, part 2, because I wanted to hear more.
I know. I really like editing,
but it's a good thing.
Watching it. Yeah. I'm just kind of blue ballsing everybody with the season 1.
Oh, that's so good.
Because watching it back, I'm like, oh, I want to know, I wanted more. So it really is sort of a trial season. It's, there's so much room to grow, and there's so many different ways that I would like, and that I plan on growing the show. So hopefully season 2. Yeah.
That is awesome. I reckon a great way to wrap up the podcast is to do a rapid fire segment. So I'm sure you've done these before. The first thing that springs to mind, but you can take as long as you want, and they're not normally rapid, and I will try not to interject because I always derail them. So you're ready to rumble.
Okay, I'm nervous.
They're pretty easy. Biggest pet peeve?
I don't like straws in soda cans.
Go on. I'm very intrigued.
I don't like it. I understand it.
Yeah.
It's weird. I understand it, but I think it's more of like the noise, it makes. Ooh, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. So I don't know. I don't like it.
Is it ASR? What's it called? Someone's gonna.
Oh, ASMR.
Oh, geez, yeah. Do you like that or that?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I like when people. Yeah, I like when people have like the wood in the the wood soup. Have you seen that? They have
wood soup.
balls. They're like balls made of wood, and they put it in like a big bowl and with water, and they stir it around. I don't know. I like that. I like that.
Okay, I will check that out. That is oddly specific. It's very
specific.
When someone's like out in the countryside and they're kind of like making a meal with the fire and they're chopping everything up on the board. I like that.
I like cooking ASMR.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
Also because it makes me upset that I can't do it.
I know we do.
What brings the best creative content out of you?
Trauma. I think really shitty shit. I think. Yeah.
Transmute it to bring out some comedy gold.
Huh?
You bring it out to bring out the comedy gold?
Yeah. It really, you gotta, it's all about perspective. I try to, but really shitty situations and things that I look back on that I'm like, I wish that didn't happen, have inspired a lot of really funny bits. So,
And if you can laugh at it, it means you've done a lot of healing. That's my perspective. Because you wouldn't
I
laugh
love
at it.
that.
Yeah. Because
I'm going to steal that.
You please do. Because you know when you go through a moment, I know I said I wouldn't talk, but I will just on this one. When you go through something so dramatic or fucked up, it's not funny in the moment. But then with a bit of time, if you laugh, it means you've done significant healing and moving forward. So that's also what I love.
I think there's a saying that's like comedy is trauma plus time.
Yeah.
Like it's true. Yeah.
And I think it's a quick way to heal as long as like we deal with it because you are processing it very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are you most proud of?
Most proud of. It's tough. I think pillow talk, honestly. I know it's like very relevant and we're plugging it, but it was my first time producing and doing anything on that scale, and I did it all by myself, and that was crazy. I don't know if I would ever do that again, but I'm really proud of myself for at least doing it and taking the, risking a lot of things and putting a lot of time and money and effort into it. Yeah.
I'm glad. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
I knew I could not fail. Oof. I'd probably walk right into the Netflix building and be like, can I have a stand-up special?
Oh, yes. You're also developing.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that going?
It's good. It's fun. It's really fun. I am still, in the writing process, or, you're writing and trying it out and stuff, and building it up to an hour set, but it's fun. Scary, but it's fun. Yeah.
That's great to hear. The two great words that work together well.
Yeah.
Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
I think I hate to be like, just do it, pussy, but like, just do it, pussy, right? It's like, I don't know. It's so scary. And I promise you the thing that you have in your mind that's like worst case scenario won't happen. It usually is a lot better. So there's a lot of things in my life that I'm like, I wish I had done that. There's a lot of times where I'm like, I wish I had done that. And not so many times where I'm like, I wish I hadn't done that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Regrets can completely rule our world. And you don't normally, I never look back and go like, you know what, I put my hand up and I tried something and go, I wish I didn't do that. At the end of the day, at least you moved one step forward. Whereas regrets play in our mind for a long time. Forever and ever.
Yeah. And there's always, no matter what, you're going to learn something. Yep. That's no matter what.
Agreed. Well said. I'm not sure if I asked this previously, but next big dream or goal?
I think right now, like the stand-up thing is really the next thing that I'm really, really working on and putting a lot of energy in. So yeah, stand-up and creating that hour special is really something that I want to do soon, hopefully. Yeah.
Cool. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
My favorite restaurant in LA, because I have a lot of restaurants in LA I love.
What's your favorite?
Okay, thank you for asking. Crazy.
Hopefully we both get
Giorgio Baldi.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah. Giorgio Baldi in Santa Monica. It's an Italian restaurant and it's so amazing. I like dream about it. Oh, and there's another one. Bulgogi Hut, if you like Korean barbecue, I think is the best bang for your buck in Koreatown. It's so, so good. It's really affordable. And it's all you can eat, baby. What else do you want? Right. Wow. So yeah.
You've sold. I'm going to go to LA, not for my screenplays. I'm going to go just for the food. Thanks to you. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're so welcome.
Before we go, how else can people follow you and keep up to date with you and all of that cool stuff?
I am at P Galley on TikTok and Paige A Gallagher on Instagram and YouTube. Full episodes of Pillow Talk are on YouTube. Clips are posted on Instagram and TikTok, but the full episodes are on YouTube and Spotify. They're now on Spotify as well.
Oh, nice.
So
I will upload all of those in the episode notes so people can check them out. Thank you so much. I love your unique perspectives and, the collaboration, and there's so many other wonderful things I've taken from this chat. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a great chat. It's been so fun.
I love how Paige talks about perfectionism and that the standard for it is not only unrealistic, but doesn't really exist in nature. There really is no one perfect video, conversation, experience, etc. Sometimes fixating on perfectionism can prevent us from going to the next level or move forward in life. Paige demonstrates by her actions that simply doing something, whether it's creating a video or performing live, that this allows us to move one step closer towards personal freedom. Changing our definition of perfectionism is crucial. For me, it is having clear goals of what I want to achieve. By doing so, the idea of perfectionism becomes less daunting and thus allows us to move forward with ease. Paige also goes one step further and encourages us to stay true to our authentic vision. Often there can be many chefs in the kitchen, but the trick is to only listen to the ones that resonate. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Perfectionism is not a quest for the best. It is a pursuit of the worst in ourselves, the part that tells us nothing we do will ever be good enough. Julia Cameron. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.